us and guide us throughout the service, and submitting all the rest of the elements to your mighty hand. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Savior, I come, quiet my soul. Remember, redemption's hill, where your blood I spill for my ransom. Everything I want is empty. I count it all as lost. Lead me to the cross where your love poured. Bring me to my knees, Lord, I lay me down. Rid me of myself, I belong to you. Oh, lead me to the cross. You were as I tempted and tried.
I bring greetings to you in the blessed name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. I am happy and pleased to be standing here this evening to share the living words of God with all of us. Before we start meditating on the red text, I would like to welcome some of our special guests who are present with us this evening. This evening, we have a special guest by name Miss Lois Schaffer, I'm not very sure, from America, and she belongs to the Amazing Grace Lutheran Church. For many of us may be new, but for many of you may not be new, seeing her. And I'm very much new to her, or she will be very much new to me, but I heard she is a very good friend, and she is a helper, so to say. I've heard that she has been helping our student friends and also our institutions in particular. So we welcome you, Miss Lois and friends with her. May we have a blessed time together. Shall we bow our heads and look to God in prayer? Almighty and everlasting God, our Heavenly Parent, we thank you and praise you for leading us and for guiding us throughout the day. At the close of the day, we have gathered once again into your holy sanctuary to worship you, to praise you, and to hear your holy words. And now, Lord, I am your servant as I am, stand before your holy people and chosen people to deliver your holy words. I know I am willing to share. I, therefore, Lord Jesus, ask for your holy presence to continually lead us and inspire us, and whatever I utter, let it be according to your holy will. May you also help all of us, especially the people present here, open their hearts and minds so that, Lord, they will also hear you and accept you. We commit our lives and the rest of our time into your hand. In Jesus' most holy name we ask in prayer. Amen. As I said, this evening we will be having a meditation based from the read text. Of course, the first reading was from Hebrew, and I initially let him read because the chosen text parallels the first reading. And for this meditation, I have entitled my sermon or meditation as The Consequences of Sin. The Consequences of Sin, which is very familiar. The famous story of Cain and Abel is puzzling for most readers and for most scholars. Why does God prefer Abel's sacrifice than Cain or to Cain? And what is the story really telling us, or what does the story really talks about? As with all the resonant narratives of Genesis, there are various possible readings whose theological significance may differ considerably. One time-honored approach is to see Cain and Abel narrative as a negative exemplification of a double love commandment, that is, a failure to love God and a failure to love one's neighbor. This reading takes its signal from the context of the story subsequent to Genesis chapter 3. And here in Genesis chapter 4, it graphically illustrates how alienation from God produces alienation from one's own fellow human beings. Or in other words, how separation or separating from God produces separation from one's own family members or human beings. This second half of the Cain and Abel narrative turns on the disastrous deed of Abel's murder, as we clearly see in verse 8. It is followed by the Lord's interrogation of Cain, that is, the culprit's evasive or vague responses. I do not know, am I my brother's keeper? And the judgment of curse mitigated or decreased by divine mercy, we see from verses 9 till 15a. It closes, or the narrative closes, with Cain's expulsion from the presence of the Lord, from verse 15b to verse 16. This section brings the Cain Abel narrative full circle, but with surprising results. Cain's part is by the agency of the Lord, or by God, and he is a tiller of the soil. We clearly see in the first verses and second verses of chapter 4. But by the end, Cain is driven from the Lord's presence, and so now must live apart from the land. He is no longer a farmer enjoying food and shelter, but now he is a wanderer, a city builder, detested or cast out from the land of his birthright that we see in verse 17. There are three things or three recurring words we see in this section that encapsulates what this passage concerns. Those are brother, Gil, and ground. Brother, Gil, and ground. This chapter actually describes about Cain, not Abel. For Abel is always described as Cain's brother, or the personal nouns such as his or his brother were used. Abel has no standing, point, or position other than what the Lord has done to him. Moreover, Abel never had conversation or had dialogue with God. And for that matter, it is only Cain and the Lord who dialogue or had conversation. But what the issue is only Cain's responsibility for his brother. That's the issue here. His treatment or Cain's treatment of his brother Abel is essentially related with the relationship with God and the divine character towards Cain. Here, Cain exchanges that privilege for anger's expression by ambushing his weaker brother, that is Abel. But Cain discovers that as the instigator of the first killing, he can be an object of the second, and thus proves that he is dangerously left without any defense. Therefore, the Lord intervenes by establishing a boundary, protecting Cain so that no one exercises a personal revenge or avenge against Cain. This is bound up with the significance of the crown, the word crown, which is integral in understanding Cain's punishment. Cain, as Adam, is a dealer of the crown, but Cain exceeds the transgressions of his father by profaning the ground with split blood. Thus, the ground would no longer give its produce as it had for Adam. And Cain is forced to abandon it for a nomadic life, a wanderer. His destiny is found further east of Eden, as we see in the last verse that we have read, removed that much more from the blessing of the Lord. Let us see verse by verse. Verse 8. Here in verse 8, we come to the hinge or turning point of the Cain and Abel narrative. But again, we come up against a dilemma for the interpretation differs. In the Hebrew text, there is no dialogue where we expect it the following customary introduction to conversation. Say, for example, like Cain said, "Where you murder," to his brother Abel. Of course, the Authorized Version, also the New American Standard Version, has this translation, but it is unlikely from the Hebrew. And it implies that the foregoing words of the Lord were reported to Abel, a position held by some commentators like Schellhammer. But it is inconsistent with Cain's character. And ancient versions, of course, followed by many English versions like today that we have, supply, "Let's go out to the field," or "Let's go up to the field." In this reconstruction, we understand that Cain lured Abel into the fields where he assassinated or where he killed his brother. And throughout chapter 4, there we see a changes of speaker, marked by the expression "he said, where you mark," followed by dialogue. This argues that some textual problems arose in this very particular verse, that is 8, which the early versions clearly are not filling it or filling out. And some commentators such as Kosawa, Dahor, and many others have recommended alternate reading of this very particular verse, and they have proposed a variety of emendations or additions. Others have explained the omission of the literary words. Not noting that the unexpected account of the mother fits with the parallel briefness that we have in chapter 3, verse 6, the story of Cain, the story of Adam and Eve. And it reflects the haste of the author to get the wicked teeth. Now, this dreadful act is underscored by repeated phrases such as Abel, his brother, that we find in verses 9 to 11. And such rivalry is rehearsed time and again among the two tribes. First we see with Ishmael, who lived in hostility with his brother, and also we see in Esau's perpetual strife with his brother, yet they ended up in a peaceful manner or in a peaceful way. If the alternative translation, let's go out to the field, is correct, then it makes Cain's action the more horribly calculated by his disobedience and all the more rapid. So structurally, 4 verses 8 battles the digression of the first disobedience incident that we see in chapter 3. Now verse 9. In verse 9, we have God's question. Where is your brother Abel? And Eve, as well it goes, the inquiry put to Adam in the garden. Where are you? Chapter 3, verse 9. So, both these acts of disobedience are thus tied together, indicating that Cain's murderous acts had its antecedent or background in the sin of his father, Adam. However, unlike his father, who admitted his crime reluctantly, Cain adds to his condemnation by lying. I do not know, am I my brother's keeper? Cain intends it as a rhetorical question, requiring a negative reply from God. But the response from God discloses otherwise out of his expectations or expectation. Adam was appointed as Sumer, that is keeper of the garden, but here the issue involved responsibility for another person or another human being. The definitive reply to Cain's question is found in the latter Noahic covenant, when the Lord formally sanctions retributive justice against the murderers that we see in chapter 9, verses 5 to 6. Let us read. Here it says, for your own life, that is its blood, for your own life, blood, I will surely require a reckoning. From every animal I will require it the blood of another. I will require a reckoning for human life. Whoever sheds the blood of a human, by a human shall that person's blood be shed. For in his own image God made humankind. So that baras. Now, when we talk about the Mosaic law, the Mosaic law would have given an affirmative answer to Cain's question. His crime would have been recognized as particularly heinous violation of community solidarity, which was highly esteemed or which was highly practiced in the ancient days by the Hebrews. Community responsibility took priority over individual preferences or individuals' rights. Kinship terms such as brother characterized also entered into mutual covenant agreement. And then the word brother is used to fellow Israelites who are protected from exploitation of any kind. Human morality assumes an unstated covenant between persons that is grounded in the inherent imago Dei. Now, the Christian community followed the same pattern of solidarity as in Israel, which Israel have practiced. So the Christians are practicing, including corporate guilt. While individuality was not denied, individualism in the sense of an autonomous person having privilege in opposition to or to an expense of an ancestral group was not encouraged or was not practiced during those days. And we also know that the church was spoken of and addressed as a collective body that we clearly see in the book of Ephesians. or a gathered people of union or in union in describing the relationship of the individual to the whole. It was common to draw this very metaphor. Thus, we have in Ephesians chapter 4, verse 12, where the particular entity is circumscribed by its contribution to the whole. We have seen that gain appropriates or abolished this sacred, holy obligation of kinship loyalty by the appealing crime of fratricide or killing of one's own brother. Because Gaines commits this family scandal, he loses the protection of the family bond, and thus now he fears for his life. The violence promulgated by Cain reaches its peaks to the days of Noah, where now God exercised vengeance by the recorded destructions in human society, where we have a reference, chapter 6, verse 7. Verses from 10 to 12. Here we see the second question, what have you done? What have you done? And this reminiscent of chapter 3, verse 13, which has been read to us, where the Lord asked the same of the woman, what is this you have done? That echoes the same question. As in the criminal trial, God presents condemning testimony against Cain, your brother's blood, and it refutes Cain's protestations. Now, our passage today depicts Abel's condemnation or examination, called for vindication by his weird personification. That is, the waste of your brother's blood cries out. Adam also heard a voice, Son of God, and is called to account for his actions, similarly, that we find in chapter 3, verse 8. Now, the source of alarming cry is the crown, that is cursed because of Adam's sin, and secondly, is now polluted by a shedding of innocent blood. We understand that, like the serpent, Cain is placed under a curse, and this is considered to be the first occasion in the scripture where a human being is cursed. This curse indicates the gravity of his crime against God and creation. Cain's fall is emphasized by the direct accusation from your hand. So that's the direct accusation we see. And the language, you are under a curse. You are under a curse. Is the same as the oracle delivered against the serpent. Because you have done this, cursed are you among all animals and among all wild creatures. So it goes, or it parallels with the curse of the serpent in chapter 3, verse 14. Now, because Cain has polluted the crown with innocent blood, he is driven out from it or from the land. And as a fitting punishment, Cain the farmer no longer enjoys the fruit of the ground and is thus by the necessity consigned to live as a vagrant or as a beggar. Verses 13 to 14, here in these verses, we have again doubt whether Cain laments his condition or he asks for forgiveness. Now, early versions have my guilt is too great. The phrase my guilt is too great to forgive. In this case, Cain is expressing remorse over his sin or requesting God's forgiveness. However, the problem lies in the meaning of the words, such as awuni, and it may be translated as my iniquity or my punishment. And then the second word, nasa, that can be translated as forgiveness or bear. So, the sense of bearing away sins or the sense of forgiveness is found only in these terms or when these two terms occur together. For example, we see in Exodus chapter 34, verse 7, and also in some prophetic books like Isaiah. But this expression can also mean a punishment. In the book of Leviticus, chapter 20, verse 19, bear the iniquity. The phrase bear the iniquity is sufficient alone to indicate a simple punishment or a punishment. Now, when we see the context of verse 14, it is more in keeping with complaint than a request. If we try to articulate it, it is more of complaint than a request. We see that Cain protests that his penalty is too harsh, or his punishment is too harsh. He argues that isolation from God's protective presence effectively affects or results in a death sentence. So it was a complaint rather than forgiveness, asking forgiveness. Cain expresses no glow of lament in this condition or in this context. Thus, it is self-pity or a resentment. Cain's complaint, as we see, is, "You are driving me out, you are driving me." And it repeats the description in chapter 3, verse 24. Cain adds that he will be left himself and forgotten by God. So that's his assumption and his presupposition. Cain's fear for his life presupposed that expansion of civilization over the course of his long life, during which there will be so many opportunities coming whereby he will be revenged by so many other people or blood avenger. So there was always a fear in his life. Without God's protection in his life, without God's protection, he is left to his own device to survive or to live his life. But we see that despite his deserving expulsion, the Lord does not leave him helpless. The Lord never left him helpless. And thus, when we read verses 15 and 16, we notice the response given by God to Cain. Now, interestingly, we have the word therefore, the condition that is given, indicating that God concedes or God granted to Cain's objection that his punishment is too severe. Now, thus the Lord promises in a formal declaration to preserve Cain's life. Hence, the Lord's response is a corrective to Cain's fearful outbursts, not an expulsion. This makes better sense in the passage because earlier also God corrects Adam and also Cain. To ensure this and to diminish Cain's fear, he safeguards this remorseful by naming Cain as though he was his kinsman or his own protector. And we see two provisions that are given. First is, God warns that Cain's murder will avenge 7 times over. That's the first. Secondly, this mark, he marks, which means God marks Cain with a protective sign. I do not know where the mark was given. So this mark, however, is not a sign of the curse. No, it does not indicate a curse. In fact, it ensures Cain's safety rather than acts as a reproach. The mark, as we see in Ezekiel visions, have the same effect. It distinguishes those who bore the brand and gave them a protection. Finally, in our pondering now, we may have a questions. Why does God preserve the life of a martyr? We may have a question as such. This is particularly perplexing, since Torah requires capital punishment during those days. No substitute for this crime was granted, were never acceptable, as we see in Numbers chapter 35, verse 32. But perhaps the answer is that by the mark or a sign, God prevents the spread of bloodshed that would otherwise rise. In that way, God preserves the continuous bloodshed in human creations. Moreover, we have to know that God is declaring that life and death are His prerogative, which He does not share with anyone else, except by His divine sanctions. God's judgment against the culprit is restrained by His own love and His grace. His promise of procreation is not thwarted or is not prevented by the sin committed or a murder incident that happened between Cain and Abel. In and through our discussions, We now know that the story that began with an attempt by Cain and Abel to please God, taking the sacrifices, ends in Cain's leaving the Lord's presence. And leaving is of Eden, presumably even farther from the Garden of Delight, from where his own parents have been expelled. So also the death of an innocent son Abel. Like the account that we have in chapter 3, the story concludes by underlining the truth that sin separates human beings from God. Sin separates human beings from God. And from the third beings that God's judgments are carried out, and therefore God's judgments are carried out. Thus, we now realize that the fall in oneself and the broken relationship with God and our fellow human beings are the consequences of sin one committed. Therefore, as we have heard today the narrative of Cain and Abel, let us be reminded that alienation from God produces alienation from one's own fellow human beings. Separation from God produces separation from one's own fellow human beings. Dear friends, may we all have enough strength and courage to overcome sin and find a better relationship with God and with the fellow human beings, our brothers and sisters. May the good Lord bless us. Amen.
Let us close our service with word of prayer. Create in us a clean heart, O God, and new a steadfast spirit with us. Do not cast us from your presence, or take your Holy Spirit from us. Restore to us the joy of your salvation, and grant us a willing spirit to sustain us. Amen. Let us all pronounce the Lord's Prayer in unison. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, and glory, forever and ever. Amen. Now may the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, love of God, and sweet communion of Holy Spirit be with us both now and forever. Amen. You may be seated.